Thanks, Mark, and thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully I'll be able to keep you awake following lunch. When I gave this talk this morning, I didn't go fast enough and I ran out of time, so I want to make sure that I don't start rambling too much, which I have a tendency to do. So just to give you a little bit of backstory about how I got involved with health club research. I'm actually trained as a muscle physiologist, and that's really what my doctoral work is in, and a bunch of my research prior to coming to GW. And here at GW, our exercise science department is in the School of Public Health. So we tend to look at things, instead of looking at things from an individual perspective, we tend to look at things from a public health perspective. So how can we make modifications that help change the behavior of a population, for example? And we know we live in a world where 68% of the country is overweight, 35% of the country is obese, and that problem is not really going away. And it's a massive public health problem. It's a huge drain on resources, and it's something that us and the fitness industry can have a profound effect on. And I think that despite that, we really aren't doing that. The fitness industry, I think, is generally not really terribly effective at helping solve this problem. And one of the things that I was charged with by IHRSA back 10 years ago when I first started getting IHRSA funding was go out and look at individuals' behaviors and perceptions about what do they think about health clubs, what do they think about personal trainers, what are some of the things that motivate people to join a club, what are the things that motivate them to quit, why do they hire trainers, why don't they hire trainers, those kinds of things. So most of what I'm going to talk about today is stuff that has come out of that type of research over the years, and I've made some observations. And I'm not an exercise psychologist. I really have no formal training in that whatsoever. This is just sort of stuff that I've kind of noticed as I've been doing this kind of work. And the idea here is to hopefully get you thinking about approaching your jobs as trainers from more of a global perspective instead of looking at something like, okay, what's the best shoulder exercises for this person? I can come up with 50 different shoulder exercises, and the reality is if nobody is going to do those exercises, it doesn't really matter which one is the best one, right? And we have an issue where very few people in this world do any exercise. And I think that is a much, much greater problem than trying to determine what is the best exercise to accomplish this goal. Okay, does that make sense? So we'll just move through this here and see what we come up with. So the first question I want to ask is, do you understand what your clients really want? And I would go out on the limb and say that the vast majority of you in here do not know what your clients want. And it's not because I'm smart or I have some pointy hat and I'm a fortune teller and I know everything and you guys don't. I'm going to say, no, you don't know what they want. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, okay, why don't you understand what your clients want? And it's mainly because you listen to what your clients tell you, and your clients don't know what they want. They think they know what they want, right? They have a very, very crystal clear idea of this is what I want to happen. And like Mark said, I work at the weight management lab, and we'll have people who come in who are 75 pounds overweight, and they'll tell me in October, well, it's October now, it wouldn't be realistic, but they'll say, in March, I want to do a figure competition. I'm like, all right, so you want to do a figure competition, that's what you want. Yes, that's what I want, but you're 75 pounds overweight. How long did it take you to get 75 pounds overweight? I don't know, 10, 15 years? All right, so instead of you having a goal of, I want to lose 15 pounds, you want to lose 75 and get on stage. Do you really want to get on stage? So in other words, if you lost that 75 pounds and you didn't get on stage, would you consider that a failure because you didn't get what you want? Of course not. You'd be thrilled. So it's our job to sort of rein those kinds of people in and say, all right, hold on. Think about what is really going to make you happy, not what you think is going to make you happy. Steve Jobs had a great quote that said, a lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And oftentimes I think this is our job. Our job is to paint a vision of reality for people and say, look, this is where you are. This might be where you think you need to be, but let's hold off on that for a little while. And let's just get you this. And I promise you, if we can get you this, you're going to be happy. And then we'll get you this, and then we'll get you this, and then we'll get you this. And one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be there, right? You're going to be at your goal. All right. So what are some of the reasons that people don't use clubs or trainers? And I put these things in quotes. Reasons is in quotes because they're not really reasons, they're excuses, okay? This is the number one reason why people don't use clubs, or why they say they don't hire trainers, why they don't exercise, is they don't have time, right? How many times have you heard people say this? I would love to exercise if only I had more time, okay? So I thought about this, and I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm a pretty busy person. You know, I think about, I get up this time, I go to work, I do this, I do that. You know, I have kids, I'm running them all. I could see how people could make up the reason that they don't have enough time. So I decided I would go on the internet and look up television viewing statistics. So television viewing statistics, the United States, and this slide is a few years old. It's actually more than this now. So the United States, here it says watches, the average person watches 28 hours per week of television. That's actually more. Now it's actually 35.1 hours per week. So 5 hours per day is spent watching television, okay? So now we're not asking people to go out and exercise 5 hours a day. We're not asking people to go out and exercise 1 hour a day. If somebody tells me they exercise 3 times a week for an hour, you're good. Good for you. God love you. That's more than 90% of the population. Right? And in this country, we really don't know how to attack this problem. Typically what happens is, or what has historically happened is, as the country gets progressively overweight, what happens to the physical activity guidelines? You have to exercise more, right? So it's really just a math problem. The more overweight you are, the more exercise you have to do to offset that. Well, if I'm not doing the physical activity guidelines from 15 years ago, why do you think I'm going to do ones that are more difficult? You know, it doesn't work. We're on this hamster wheel where people are getting progressively more and more obese, more and more overweight, and we just tell them to exercise more and eat less. Well, obviously this has not worked, right? We know this hasn't worked. We have decades of evidence to tell us it hasn't worked. Okay, so something is wrong. The approach is wrong. All right. What's the second reason people say they don't want to exercise or they can't go to a gym? Money, right? Cost, the second reason. So when we did our URSA Club study, we surveyed 5,000 people. And we asked them a lot of different things, like what's their access to clubs? Have they ever been a member of a club, this and that? And we had enough people in there that there were a bunch of people who had free access to clubs for whatever reason. They either had free memberships through work, or they had a free fitness facility in the apartment complex that they lived in. When we factored all those things in, having free access to a gym made them no more likely to use it, okay? So when you remove the cost factor, exercise participation does not go up, okay? What's the next one, do you think? Or another one, location. People say, if the gym was closer, I'd be more likely to go to it. You know, I don't want to have to drive all the way across town to go to a gym. So we did the exact same thing. We looked at people, we looked at participation based on how many people had free access to a gym that essentially was in their same building or in their building at work. And if we remove the factors of cost and location, it didn't increase participation at all. So you could have free access to a gym that's one floor underneath you, and you are not any more likely to use that than somebody who doesn't have that, okay? I don't look good enough to go to the gym. Who's heard this one before? How many people have heard somebody say, I have to get in shape before I go to the gym? Right, I mean, it's very common. And you know where this picture comes from? Some of you recognize this picture, right? It's a Planet Fitness ad, right? So This is the Planet Fitness ad where you have this woman sitting on the bleacher and she's got her towel and she's like looking around at these other women, and these really gorgeous women are standing there, and the one's going, "You're hot." And the other one goes, "No, you're hot." And they're just back and forth calling each other hot. And she's sitting there just, whatever, get me out of here, right? So, and I have very mixed feelings about the whole Planet Fitness thing, right? Because on one hand, y'all know the whole deal behind Planet Fitness, right? It's like the no gym intimidation. You know, they say gyms are very intimidating, and we want to offer an environment where you don't have to be intimidated to come to Planet Fitness. But some people feel as though this has been taken to extremes, where you hear these stories where people will say, well, you know, my sports bra was, I was showing too much skin, so Planet Fitness kicked me out. Or I grunted too loud, so Planet Fitness kicked me out. And don't they have an alarm, the lunk alarm that goes off, like if you make too much noise? So if you're behaving like a typical like gym meathead, they sound the lunk alarm and make you feel like a fool, right? So people in our industry who are fitness purists think that, you know, that's ridiculous. You know, what's wrong with grunting a little bit if you're lifting a weight? You know, why would you design a gym that doesn't have a squat rack because it's intimidating to people? So from a personal trainer perspective, when I look at that, I think it's stupid. But when I look at, and I'm not bashing on Planet Fitness here, when I look at this, I think to myself, when we did our study, these are the exact reasons why people said they didn't want to go to a gym. People said, I don't look good enough, I have to buy skimpy clothing, I'm intimidated by the gym. I have a friend who's, I'm a member of a Globo gym here in Leesburg, and I have a female friend who says, I determine where I go in the gym based on whether the floor is carpeted or rubber. So if the floor is rubber, she doesn't go on that part of the gym. Why? What happens on the rubber floor? Stuff gets dropped, free weights are there, right? So the free weight area is the area that she absolutely will not go in just because she's intimidated, she's afraid. But she knows if she stays on the carpeted area, she's not going to be intimidated. So the point is, there's a very large percentage of the population that feels that way. They're very intimidated by the club experience. And Planet's approach is, we are not interested in targeting the people who are comfortable working out. We are interested in targeting that large percentage of the population that would never go to a gym if they didn't have a place like ours. Now, from a trainer perspective, I look at that and think this is stupid. From a public health perspective, I look at this and think this is genius, right? Because I have a business model that is reaching out to this massive part of the population that normally would not consider joining a gym. I can't look at that and think of that as being bad, right? My public health head will not let me do that. That being said, I don't necessarily believe that model is going to improve adherence or make them stay there or make them get any results. All it means is that they're more likely to get in the door. If you take somebody who's a non-exerciser, who's afraid of gyms, they're more likely to go here than to go somewhere else, right? What happens after that, I don't really think that the model is going to help, but I still think it's a good thing. Planet has pizza nights. Have you heard of this? Right, so you walk, this is my understanding of it, is you walk in and they have pizza, right? And I actually saw a video of a guy on the internet, and you see these things, you never know if they're real or not, but there's a guy on like a hyperextension machine actually eating a piece of pizza, right? You could look it up, it's fun. And you could tell it's at Planet Fitness because of the color of the equipment, it's that purple, yellow stuff. So initially you think, your knee-jerk reaction is, why are they giving away pizza at a gym? The people who are there lose weight. You're not losing weight by eating pizza. But then I start thinking about it more, and I think, all right, you know, if I'm coming to this place, and if I'm like most Americans, I don't need to go to Planet Fitness to get pizza, right? Odds are they're probably eating the pizza anyway. They're just not doing it in the gym. So if you're going to have bad dietary behaviors, does it really hurt if you're going to Planet Fitness to get pizza? It doesn't really hurt. It exposes you to an environment that which you normally wouldn't be exposed to, right? Again, I don't think it's going to result in improved retention and be effective, but at least it's going to get somebody thinking about it. Maybe that person comes to Planet Fitness for 6 months, and maybe one day they stop eating the pizza. Maybe they walk past it. Maybe they start getting fit. Maybe they get to the point where they get so fit they get thrown out. That would be ideal, right? That would be ideal because then they could go somewhere else. So, I think as an industry, it's not good for us to look at this and say, that's bad. Because basically, you're saying that this vehicle that might allow this large percentage of the population to start getting active, we're just throwing that out and saying that we don't want that. And I don't think that's professionally a good approach. Okay, I don't like personal trainers. A lot of people told us this. I don't like personal trainers. You guys don't like them. These people look perfectly fine to me. These look like nice people, right? What's not to like? When we look at personal trainers, this is what we see. When the consumer looks at personal trainers, this is what they see. Okay? So the consumer absolutely, without question, believes that personal trainers are salespeople that are trying to sell them something. This is what they've told us, right? They're pushy, especially if you work, how many people are here working a job that's based on commission, sales of packages, right? How many are in big chains, big clubs, right? Do you feel like a salesman first or a trainer first? Salesman first, right? And a lot of people who get into personal training don't know that they're going to have to go through sales training and learn about selling training packages. So turnover is really high and people are generally unhappy. So it's not really a good environment for fostering a client-trainer relationship, right? And I think that model is a huge problem in the fitness industry. It's a huge problem because when you're training somebody, if you want that person to get good results, which you do, that's a relationship-based sort of thing. They have to trust you, you have to trust them. If they think you're a salesman just trying to get them to sign up for another 10 sessions, it's not going to work. They're not going to get good results. So what's the real reason people don't exercise? What do you think? Not that there's one specific one. This is just, the world according to Miller. This is just my opinion here. They're lazy. I really want to say it's because people are just lazy. I really want to say that. But it isn't. That's not it. There are lazy people. 68% of the population is not lazy, I don't think. They just don't make it a priority. It's just not a priority for them, right? Here's a quote that I like. Sonia Parker, I don't know who that is. I just like the quote. You won't change until changing becomes a priority instead of one of your options. And this is really what we're talking about is behavior change, behavior modification. And a lot of people hire trainers because they want to be different. They want their life to change. They want to lose weight, but they really don't want to go through what it takes in order to make it happen. So they hire a trainer thinking what? If I hire a trainer, the trainer's going to help me do this and help me do this and help me do this. And really what they're thinking in their head is the trainer's going to do this for me. If I hire the trainer, they'll be able to solve my problem, right? And we know that's not true, right? We know that if somebody is going to get really good results, where does that happen? Does that happen in the 1 hour they're working with you or the 23 hours of the day they're not with you? It happens in the 23 hours they're not working with you because they can very easily ruin any progress that you just made for them very, very quickly, okay? I want to tell you a story about my friend Jerry. This is Jerry. And you could see Jerry on the left. Jerry's about 36, 37. He has young kids. And the picture on the left was taken about a year ago in New Jersey. And Jerry's on the beach playing with his kids. And he's sitting in one of those sand chairs that are like real low to the ground. So he's sitting down there and his kids are playing in the surf and they're playing with a ball or something. And the one kid kicks the ball up and the ball comes rolling up towards Jerry and it's just out of his reach. So and the kid yells, "Daddy, get the ball," whatever. So Jerry's reaching over and he's trying to get the ball and he can't reach the ball and the kids are getting impatient. The kids are standing there. So Jerry starts getting out of the chair and Jerry can't get out of the chair. Jerry's like, I don't know. Sorry. Hold on, wait. Okay, so, so Jerry's trying to get out of the chair, and he can't get out of the chair. And the kid says, all right, the heck with it. So the kid runs up, and he says, don't worry about it, I'll get the ball. Daddy's too fat to play with us, right? So Jerry at that moment, now clearly Jerry didn't get like this overnight, right? Jerry's been on the be yourself diet for a very long time here, right? So in that moment, Jerry realizes that, I'm 36 years old and I can't play with my kids. I'm too big to get out of a damn beach chair and I can't play with my kids. So what does Jerry do at that point? At that point, a switch goes off inside Jerry, and Jerry suddenly has the motivation to change his life, right? He cleans up his diet, he starts exercising, he joins a gym, he hires a trainer, and in 6 months he loses 40 or 50 pounds or whatever it is, something crazy, right? Completely different. Now, is that anything that anybody externally did to make that happen? No. Jerry reached a point in his life where enough was enough. He was going to make a change. And I think that everybody has that in them. It's just that for some people, that moment of clarity never comes. They never reach that point where they say, okay, enough is enough. And I don't think we can make that happen, but I think that we can certainly facilitate that based on the relationship that we build with our clients, right? So the other thing we have to remember is that could Jerry have done this without a trainer? Your answer should immediately be yes, Jerry could do this without a trainer, right? So we would like to think that we play this integral, critical role in somebody's success, but we play a very, very tiny part of it. If a doctor tells me I need a heart transplant, I can't go on YouTube, figure out how to transplant my heart, cut myself open, go to Walmart, buy a heart, pop it in, right? I can't do that. I need a doctor in order to do that. If a doctor tells me you need to lose weight or you're going to die, I can go on the internet and figure out how to lose weight, right? Would it be the best way? Maybe. Would it be the worst way? Maybe. The point is, I can do it on my own, right? So if I'm going to hire a trainer, it better be a worthwhile experience for me. I better get something out of it, because if I don't, I'm just going to say, you know what, I could do this on my own. And they can do it on their own. So keep that in mind. So what's the main goal when hiring a trainer? Now, a lot of people have different goals, but again, I put the public health hat on. Most people who come and want to work out and want to start exercising do so because they want to lose weight. Most people do not want to start exercising to improve their health. They'll say they do. They'll say they want to improve their health, but what do they really mean? I want to lose weight, right? That's what they mean. So people are driven by how they aesthetically look. You know, like if I see a really attractive woman walking down the street, I don't look at her and go, man, I bet she's got some low blood pressure, right? Exercise improves your blood pressure, right? But I don't care about that when I'm looking at her, right? So the health aspect of exercising is much less attractive than or much less appealing than the ability to improve your appearance, right? I mean, think about it. Let's say all exercise did was improve your health, but didn't improve your appearance at all. Would anybody do it? Be honest. Some would do it. I wouldn't. And I know better, right? So I'm straight up, you know? I'm not crazy about the idea of exercise. I don't like it, right? But I like the benefit. I like the effect. I feel good, and it makes me look better. So for me, there's enough incentive for me to do it, right? So what prevents people from exercising? I want to go through these things sort of quickly. I believe there's a biological factor. Exercise just for the sake of exercising doesn't make any sense from an evolutionary perspective. It doesn't make any sense for us to get on a treadmill and run for an hour and at the end of it have nothing to show for it. That doesn't make sense. We're not wired that way. If you put a mouse in a cage with a wheel, it'll run on the wheel. It'll run like crazy on the wheel. You don't have to train it to run on the wheel. It just wants to run. If you put a dog in a cage or a pig in a cage with a treadmill, it doesn't voluntarily run on the treadmill. It's not wired for it. For some reason, the mouse is wired for it. That doesn't mean that the dog or the pig can't get very well trained if you force it to run on the treadmill. That's how humans are. If you force them to train, they'll get very, very fit. But if you just leave them alone, most of them are just going to lay there and do nothing. And that's reflected in our population. Humans operate on pleasure-seeking and pain avoidance. We'll talk about that later. Americans are encultured in a medical system where we don't emphasize prevention. If I have high blood pressure, what do? I take a pill for it. Go to the doctor. Doctor will take care of you, right? So if I know exercise improves blood pressure and whatever, a beta blocker improves blood pressure, and now I have that option to me. I have the ability to just be lazy and then take the beta blocker. Right? If that's not there, then my option is, okay, I exercise or I just live with high blood pressure. Okay? And we have too many easy outs, too many medical treatments. Americans want immediate gratification and quick results. If you have a client that comes to you and let's say it's a person who's never exercised, it's a 40-year-old woman, she's 50 pounds overweight, and you say, our workout today is we're going to go run 10 miles. Okay? What's she going to say? I'm not going to go run 10 miles. There's no way I'm going to run 10 miles. I can't run 1 mile. You want me to run 10 miles, right? It would be the most ridiculous thing in the world for her to think she's going to run 10 miles. But if you said, here's the deal. We're going to run 10 miles today, and I guarantee you're going to drop 3 sizes at the end of that 10-mile run, and it'll stay off forever. How many of them do you think would run that 10 miles? Everyone, they'd kill themselves trying to run the 10 miles, right? Because it's immediate gratification. Right? And it's very difficult to convince somebody to do something that gives them no immediate benefit. Most people, when they start exercising, feel worse when they're done than when they started, right? Now I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I got to take a shower. It's inconvenient. It's very difficult to get people to see the value in that. And the problem with exercise, you have to do it for a long time in order to reap the benefit, right? And we're just not wired that way. We're not encultured that way. We're not brought up that way. We're brought up that when we only do things that gives us an immediate reward. We engineer activity out of society. You think about this. With the increases in technology over the past several decades, we have to do less and less and less. And as the amount of day-to-day activity that we do goes down, we can't make up for that by the time we spend in the gym, right? So now we have people who actually meet the physical activity. We have people who meet the physical activity guidelines who are still overweight, right? Because what happens? The amount of time that they spend exercising is not enough to offset the amount of sedentary activity that they're doing outside of the gym, right? People wake up, they walk to their car, they drive to work, they sit in front of the desk for 8 hours, they get back in the car, they drive to the gym, they take the escalator up to the gym, they work out for an hour, they take the escalator back down, they stop at the juice bar to get their 500-calorie smoothie, they get in the car, they drive home, and they watch The Walking Dead until midnight, right? If you do that, you can say, yeah, but I'm going to the gym every day, I'm getting my hour of physical activity. Yes, you are, right? You are. You're meeting that guideline, but it's not enough. Your day-to-day activity is too easy. All right. Pain and pleasure, we already talked about this a little bit. So in order to increase usage of you, we have to increase the pleasure associated with the trainer experience. And one of the things that people said when they want to work out with a personal trainer is they want the trainer to be like them. They want to be able to relate to that person. So if you are an overweight woman and maybe you're 50 or 60 years old and you go to the gym and they hook you up with a personal trainer who's, got all kinds of tattoos and a mohawk and, gauges in his ears. And that person, what do those people have in common? Those people have very little in common. They don't have a whole lot to talk about, right? They can't relate to one another. And if they can't relate to one another, what are the odds that that client is going to want to continue working with that person? I'm not saying that's impossible, that they can't get along, but wouldn't it make more sense, or wouldn't the retention likely to be higher if the client was with somebody that they felt could feel their pain. Somebody who they could at least feel like they know what it's like to walk in their shoes. Right? It absolutely would be higher, but that's really difficult to do. If we look at industry statistics for personal trainers, 75% of all trainers have been doing it for less than 5 years. 75%. Because what happens? They get out of school, or they get out of high school, or they don't go to high school, and they say, I want to be a personal trainer because I like working out. And they can get a job because there's no real standard for personal trainers. And they start working for very little money, but then they hit 25, 26, they get married, they have some kids, they realize, look, I'm not making enough money to support my family, and if I do work enough hours to support my family, I never get to see my family anyway. So what do? They quit personal training. So it's a very young field. It's a very young industry. And as a result, there's not a whole lot of trainers that can relate to people who are in their 50s and 60s, and yet this is a booming segment of the population. Does that make sense? All right. Increase the reward associated with the trainer experience. People have to get results. That's as simple as that. And if people aren't getting results, they're not going to keep you. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Increase the pain or the disgust associated with being overweight, unhealthy, inactive. And this is a problem because we're at the point in the United States where if 68% of the population is overweight, what is the norm? The norm is to be overweight, right? If 35% of the population is obese and most of those overweight people are just on their way to obese, right? It won't be long before eventually they'll hit obese. Then we have a problem, we have a situation where we have a new norm. And that new norm is to be overweight, to be unhealthy, to be inactive. And as that becomes more normal and more accepted, it becomes much more of a challenge to try and change that, especially on a population level. So I just want to put a few of these. These are things that people say, and when we look at some clubs, there are a lot of mom and pop clubs and smaller clubs that incorporate a lot of these strategies and have been very successful doing these kinds of things. More activities where members and trainers bond. I want to briefly discuss CrossFit. And not from I don't want to talk about the training philosophies of CrossFit. Just take all that out of it. If we look at one of the things that is interesting about CrossFit is if you look at a typical CrossFit box and you look at the members who go there, they're a very sort of tight-knit family, right? They feel that bond. The trainers and the clients, they feel that bond. They hang out with one another. They do things together. They feel part of a team almost. Like if they don't show up, they're letting somebody down. Now forget about the training methodology altogether and just think about that facet of that type of training. That's effective at improving adherence and retention. People are more likely to do something like that for a longer period of time than if you just stick your headphones on and go into wherever, Globo Gym. Okay? So if we can think of ways to bring that kind of environment to wherever it is you're working, you'll increase retention. And that kind of emotional bond is a type of immediate gratification, right? So if I want some type of immediate gratification and I go there and work out, maybe I hate the workout, maybe the workout sucks, I don't like it, it hurts, it's painful, but at the same time, I get to hang out with my friends. That experience becomes worth it to me. All right, match clients, trainers, social events for clients like pizza night, gender-specific programming. When we ask people, do they like exercising around the opposite sex? Men loved exercising around women. Women were totally neutral on it. Not that they didn't like it, but they were like, well, I don't care one way or the other. But clearly they scored lower. There was a statistically significant difference. Men enjoyed exercising around women. Women did not enjoy exercising around men, okay? Remember curves? Are they still around? Yeah. Any curves still around? All right, curves. One of the things that people love about curves is that there's no men there, you know, and it's got that tight-knit bond feel. So everybody's in a circle, looking at each other, holding hands, singing. I don't know if that's what happens. Trainers who understand what affects exercise adherence. And this is critically important because I don't think trainers do understand what affects exercise adherence, because most people who study exercise adherence don't understand how to change it. We spend a lot of time focusing on the mechanics of training. And I want to put up, I just randomly thought to myself, let's look at what we teach our personal trainers. So this is the content description of the NSCA CPT exam, and it gives you a breakdown of where the questions are. So client consultation and assessments, 23% of the exam. Program planning and exercise technique are each 32%. So 64% of the exam is on technique and programming. Okay, sort of the nuts and bolts of personal training. Safety, emergency procedures, and legal issues are 13%. So if we look at this and think, okay, how much of this is on the psychology of exercise and what gets people to exercise and what motivates them, it's very, very little, if any at all, right? And I would make the argument that exercise adherence, the psychological aspects of exercise, are really the only important thing. The single most important thing is getting in here, getting in somebody's melon, and getting to understand what makes this person undertake an exercise program and stick to it. Because if you can do that, the rest is easy. Let's face it, the rest is easy. We're not rocket scientists in here, right? We're not heart surgeons, we're not brain surgeons. If we can understand overload, specificity, frequency, and somebody will actually listen to us for the long term and get their head out of the refrigerator, then we can get some pretty amazing results with people, right? But we don't spend any time focusing on how we actually teach people to do that. All we really care about is how fast do I have to run? You know, what's the best exercise for this? What's the best exercise for that? So, and I'm only being slightly critical of this. I'm not like upset about this. I'm saying that I think personally, and I've had discussions about this, and we are starting to think about how can we modify these things so that we're getting more at those behavioral factors, because it's really a behavior change issue. And I think you're going to see in the future a lot more exercise adherence and exercise psychology come into the role of certification for trainers. I think we should see that. If we go back to the Jerry example, right? Jerry got really, really good results. And if you were a trainer, you would love to see one of your clients get those kinds of results, right? But again, it boils down to they really don't need you to get that. They can do that on their own if they make their mind up that that's what they want. They can figure it out. And I think we need to be cognizant of that, and we have to keep that in the back of our heads. But if we can spend our time helping somebody come to that realization, if we can spend our time helping somebody realize, look, there's a very important reason as to why you're doing this. If we can help them come to that, then they will see our relationship as being more valuable, and they will retain you. They won't want you out of their life. But we don't do that. What do? We focus on how many training sessions am I going to sell? Can I get them to re-sign for another 10 sessions? Right? And that's the wrong approach. Now, it's not the wrong approach from a financial standpoint, because you're looking for that short-term goal. Use effective training techniques. We have a student who went out and surveyed personal trainers. And she said, if you have a female client and you want that client to increase her strength, increase her lean mass, and decrease her body fat, what would you do? Or what should you do? Not would you do, what should you do? And the trainers would say all the right things. They need to lift heavy weights, they need to do multiple joint movements, they need to do periodized programs, especially the certified trainers. They listed the right things that they should do. Basically train the same way as you would a guy. When they were asked what they actually do, everything was completely opposite, right? They do real lightweight, single joint stuff, real high rep stuff that's basically ineffective for muscle building. Why would they do that when they know what the right thing to do is? Because the clients will quit. The client thinks if the weight's too heavy, I'm going to get bulky, right? They don't want to lift like a guy. So the trainer will intentionally prescribe an ineffective workout so that they can maintain the client. Now, if that's the case, which is, because we've asked them, it's not published yet, but this is the data. If that's the case, the system's broke. That person is never going to get results, right? Because if they stick with the person who's giving them an ineffective program, they're going to quit because they're not getting any results. If they give them an effective program, they're going to quit because they're afraid they're going to get bulky. So the trainer's in a lose-lose situation, right? The only way that trainer is going to win is if they can effectively educate that person. The only way you effectively educate that person, the only way that person's going to listen to you is you have to have a relationship with them. You can't bring them in, sit them down on the machine, get your Starbucks and your clipboard, start counting reps, right? If I'm sitting there going 1, 2, 3, I see this all the time. I'm a member at a Globo gym, and I watch people do this, and you can't tell me that that client is not sitting there and at some point think to themselves, why am I paying this person? I could do this. I know how to count, right? So, anyway. Educate clients on lifestyle behaviors. These are the things that are going to affect somebody's results. We have my wife works at a gym, at a juice bar. And the juice bar has this deal with the trainers where if the trainers send clients to the juice bar, the trainers get a percentage of whatever they buy. Okay, they get a cut, right? Which is a great financial, for the juice bar, it's a great financial deal, right? Because they get people, they have trainers that are pushing clients to the juice bar. For the trainers, it's a great deal because they get a cut off of what they buy. But what does the trainer do? The trainer tells them to go and basically buy the most expensive thing on the menu, which is this 750-calorie recovery drink, right? It's called Mo Mass. So you have these people come in, you have these overweight people that come in, do a 30-minute workout, and then the trainer sends them to buy a $750-calorie recovery drink. So the trainer is financially incentivized to sabotage their clients' results, right? And if the trainer, you're thinking, well, you know, if I'm going to send the juice bar, do I want them to spend a lot of money or a little money? You want to spend a lot of money. So the whole system is set up for failure on everybody's end. Because ultimately, the client's going to quit because they're going to be like, I'm getting fatter going to the gym, right? All right. Provide this. Learn to sell results, not training packages. And this is really the big. If somebody comes to you and they want to lose weight, and all you're worried about is selling them training sessions and not educating them on how to live their lives outside, they're not going to get results and they're going to quit. If you teach somebody how to get results, you know, if you have 90 minutes or an hour with somebody and they're on the machine, and instead of counting their reps, start talking to them about what they should be eating or what they shouldn't be eating. Or talk to them about how many calories they're burning standing versus sitting, right? Don't count their reps for them. You're not helping them. All right. Let's talk about some hurdles you'll encounter. A good habit takes about 3 to 6 months to 5 minutes remaining. I did the same thing I did last time. A good habit takes about 3 to 6 months to develop. Most people quit within 6 weeks. So we see this in January when people join. You know, in January, the fitness gym memberships skyrocket. 6 weeks later, they're back to normal. 6 weeks later, they're back to where they were before. So you have 6 weeks to get somebody some kind of result. Because if you get somebody some kind of result, they're more likely to stay, right? But for something to become an ingrained habit, it takes about 3 to 6 months. It's really difficult to get somebody to exercise for 3 months without having them see any results, right? You can't just say, trust me, sign up for another 10 sessions. We'll get there, right? People grossly overestimate the number of calories they burn during exercise and grossly underestimate the number of calories they ingest. At the end of the day, this is a math problem, right? You have to eat less than you burn. That's it. It's that simple. So you have to let people know somehow, people have to get some handle on what they're eating. And it's amazing when you ask people, how many calories are in this pizza? You'll get people say 100, and you'll get people that say 6,000. They have just no clue. It's all over the place, right? And same thing, you'll have people come in with their heart rate monitor on. I don't know how you feel about heart rate monitors, but I have a guy he comes into the weight management lab and he says, I burned 1,200 calories during my workout. And I'm like, all right, how do you know that? He goes, well, my heart rate monitor tells me so. Like, all right, what exercise are you doing? He says, Bikram yoga. Like, all right, so you're burning 1,200 calories, and that's the one where the room gets real hot, right? What's the one where the room gets real hot? Is that Bikram? All right, so why is his heart rate high if he's in a 110-degree room? There's a reason why his heart rate's high. He's sending all his blood to his skin so he can cool himself off, right? Of course your heart rate's going to be high. Does that mean you're burning more calories? No, you're not burning more calories. You're not burning 1,200 calories in a yoga class. You're not. But he thinks he is. So he comes in, he's telling me, I can't lose weight. You know, I'm burning 1,200 calories. I'm tracking my calories with an app. You know, I'm eating 5,000, 6,000 calories a day. All right, well, I'll tell you what your problem is, right? So when they get a handle on what exactly they're burning and what they're consuming, then all of a sudden they start losing weight. All right. People reward themselves with increased calories following exercise, right? I just did 20 minutes on a bike. I think I burned 700 calories. I really only burned about 100, but I can go out and eat this 600-calorie piece of cheesecake. No wonder you're not getting results. Adoption of an exercise program often leads to stoppage of gain but no weight loss. So, you know, if somebody reaches that point, I'm 190 pounds, I don't want to be 190 pounds. And they're slowly gaining 2 to 3 pounds a year. We call it creeping obesity. Most people over 30 or 40 are slowly gaining 2 to 3 pounds a year. They come to us, or they come to you, and they say, I want to start working out because I don't want to be 190 pounds. They start working out, and they just burn enough to offset the rate of gain. And they do that for 6 weeks, and they get back on the scale, and they're 190 pounds. And what do they conclude? This didn't work. They didn't lose any weight. Yeah, but you didn't gain any either. Right? You were in the process of gaining. We gave you enough exercise to offset that gain. But their immediate conclusion is this doesn't work, and they quit. All right. Intentional exercise can't make up for a completely sedentary lifestyle. We talked about this before. If you're completely sedentary, this isn't going to work. So let me just tell you briefly about what we do with the typical person that comes in. We give them a body composition test using a DEXA or an InBody 720. If you don't have an accurate way to measure body composition, don't do it. Take girth measurements or something like that. Don't give them this thing that you hold in the hand. Don't give them the bathroom scale you bought at Target, the little whatever body electrical impedance scale. They don't work. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You're sabotaging your own results. Determine their resting metabolic rate. You know, I know that you're like, well, how do I do this? I don't have one of these machines. Well, you know, I don't know, but this is how we do it. Find one. Because it's the only way that works. I'm telling you, it's the only way that works. And you can use prediction equations for this. You can use the Harris-Benedict equation and things like that. But in our experience, these things are often wrong. So this person has a resting energy expenditure of 1,555 calories. And this is my laser pointer. Oh, yeah, it does. So this is their predicted scale. This is slow. This is fast. This person's metabolism is 20% faster than predicted. So if I use the prediction equation, this would be, it would be 20% slower, right? So we use this and we come up with this number and say, all right, this is this person's resting energy expenditure, 1,555 calories. And I tell that person, eat 1,555 calories. That way I know on your most sedentary day, if you were to wake up, plop yourself in front of the TV and never move all day long, if you only ate 1,555 calories, you wouldn't gain weight, right? Now people say, oh, 1,500 calories is too low. I know you're going to go over it. But if I give you 1,500 as a target, maybe you'll only eat 1,800. If I give you 2,000 as a target, I know you're going to eat 2,300. If I give you 2,300, I know you're going to eat 26. Right? So I give you this low number knowing that you're going to go over it a little bit. And if you know, this way I can keep track of this person. So here are some apps that we use, and I say, look, you want to lose weight? This is how it works. Track your calories. And they say, I can't track my calories. It's too much trouble. I say, I can't help you. Go somewhere else. That means you really don't want to. How much do you really want to lose? How committed are you to this if you can't take your phone and plug in the food that you want to eat? I saw that, by the way. I'm just ignoring you. I'm done now, though. So here's some typical results. Look in your thing, and you can see here. Look in your little book if you have the slides, and you can see these typical results. These are my closing thoughts. How people behave on a day-to-day basis is much more important than what they do with you. So if your model is truly results-based, if you really want people to get results, you need to influence and educate and motivate those people to make better lifestyle choices, not worry about counting their reps and making them do shoulder exercise forms right. You know, it's not important. This ultimately rewards you far more profoundly than focusing on your training technique alone. And here's all my info. If you want to get in contact with me, you really should subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's awesome.